Hello and welcome. My name is Brian Wood. I am Director and Cloud Advocate at Teradata. Today we're going to be talking about Teradata Vantage on AWS, powerful, scalable, secure analytics in the cloud. I've been at the company about 5 years doing nothing but cloud marketing, so I'm happy to talk to you today about what we're doing with AWS in the cloud. So first of all, I want to clarify, companies have different needs for analytics. They're not all the same. So we think about things in terms of a 2x2 matrix. There's down and to the left and there's up and to the right. So down and to the left are basically basic analytic requirements. You're talking about simple to use, it's easy elasticity, pay as you go, low concurrency, meaning low concurrent queries going on at the same time, and basic BI or business intelligence and reporting. And then up and to the right is enterprise analytics. And this is where things like operational SLAs are important, query response times that are guaranteed, linear scalability, because we're talking about massive scale here, predictable pricing, again, massive scale. We don't want to be paying per query at when you're talking millions or even billions of queries, high concurrency, lots of things going on at once, and complex workloads. So two different angles in the market. Teradata has been known for covering up and to the right, the enterprise analytics, but we also have down and to the left in the cloud, and that's what we're going to be talking about here on AWS. So, but before I go into the details, just to clarify, I mean, we have a number of customers using Vantage on AWS. So you see some of them here, Brinker International, they have a bunch of restaurant chains, Meredith, publishing company, Larry H. Miller, Sports and Entertainment. They own the Utah Jazz as well as a number of other properties. They use Teradata in the cloud, specifically on AWS. Monsanto, the agricultural firm, and Ticketmaster, who, in terms of tickets for concerts and entertainment, many, many more. These are just a few of the publicly announced ones that are using Teradata Vantage on AWS. What is the customer value prop for Teradata software in AWS? Well, there's a few things. First of all, time to value. This is the case for any cloud deployment, much faster to deploy in the cloud than on-premises infrastructure. So we're talking going from months to minutes, literally, for deployment. One cool thing about Teradata software in the cloud, it's the same software as customers use on premises. So that makes for very easy and low risk migrations. It also means there's no need to recode anything, any applications, no need for people to relearn new skills, no change in process. It's all the same, so very non-disruptive. Cloud, of course, scalability, elasticity, be able to start small and then grow. All those attributes are applicable for Teradata Vantage on AWS. And flexible subscriptions. We have multiple pricing models because not every workload demands the same pricing model. So kind of a key attribute of Teradata on AWS is choice. So we give customers the ability to choose what's right for them. They're not force-fit into any one particular model. And we help customers choose the right thing and help them get the most value out of their analytics investment. So before I go any further, what is Vantage on AWS? So you may have heard of Teradata Database. That's the kind of data warehousing software that we've been known for literally decades. Well, Vantage is the evolution of that. It's the next generation of Teradata Database. We've also combined our Aster Analytics software into one integrated platform. So think of Vantage as analytics platform software. And the kind of key value prop of Vantage is you can use any tool, any language on 100% of your data. And so by that, I mean any kind of traditional visualization or ETL tools. So things like, MicroStrategy, Tableau, Informatica, Qlik, Power BI, QuickSight, AWS's own visualization tool, you name it, you can use that with Vantage. You don't have to be restricted to Teradata-only tools. Any language, so not just SQL analytics, which is the lingua franca for analytics, but also things like R and Python, and more to come in the future. So data scientists can use their preferred tools and languages with Vantage. And then 100% of the data. And by this, I mean not just the data in the database itself, the structured data, rows and columns, but also unstructured data in data lakes, and specifically Object Store, Amazon S3 Object Store, as well as Hadoop data lakes. But customers can query all of this data, can join all of it where it is. There's no need to move data to do the analytics. Keep the data exactly where it is, and Vantage part of the whole value prop is it's integrated. So you can do lots of different types of analytics using these different languages on all of your data, so you get the best possible answers. Some as-a-service subscription features. So, cloud, this is an as-a-service environment. What that means is Teradata provisions the infrastructure, and these are standard AWS compute instances. So we currently use the M5 family, soon going to the R family. So we provision that for customers in a dedicated environment. Each customer is in their own subscription, or in this case, VPC. So there's no sharing of infrastructure. There's no noisy neighbor syndrome. Security is much higher, availability, reliability, those sorts of things. And then we help customers into that environment in terms of we help them along the migration process, provisioning, onboarding. We do all the patches and updates, the security monitoring. We have external auditing of environments to validate that that environment is compliant with things like PCI and HIPAA and GDPR to help customers be compliant with CCPA. So, kind of all comprehensive. And then we guarantee uptime, 3 nines availability, 99.9% availability. We do the backups, very comprehensive. So that's what our as-a-service subscriptions are on AWS. Any cloud environment, you'd expect scalability, and we have that. We have vertical scaling, the ability to change instance size to increase compute power and then bring it back down when that extra is no longer needed. And then also horizontal scaling to be able to increase the number of instances and then bring it back. Again, because different situations, sometimes you need a little bit more oomph than the baseline, and then you can draw it back. And so this is a way for customers to get exactly what they need and not overpay for what they don't need. They can even turn it off, stop the system, and then turn it back on, like wake it up, so to speak. So this is all capable with Vantage on AWS. We do use standard AWS infrastructure. A lot of people think mistakenly that we use our own infrastructure in the cloud. That's not the case. We're using standard AWS compute instances, standard EC2 instances. They're not specific to Teradata, which means global footprint, a lot of other customers using these types of instances. So there's a broad base of support and usage there. Think of it this way. Standard Teradata software, in fact, the same software that customers use on premises is what we use on AWS, and using standard AWS infrastructure. So you get the best of both worlds. We focus on the software, AWS focuses on the infrastructure, Teradata manages that combination, and that's exactly what customers get. We're not doing your data analytics, we're not even seeing your data or touching your data. That's on your side of the fence, but we're managing the environment for you. We're also integrated with a number of AWS first-party services, and by this I mean, we're not an island within the AWS ocean. We're tightly integrated with a number of AWS first-party services. So I'm talking, we mentioned Amazon S3 for object storage, but there's also Kinesis, streaming data, Lambda for events and triggering. I mentioned QuickSight for visualization. Of course, we use CloudFormation and we use Kubernetes, manage clusters. We use key management. Customers can use their own keys they want for encryption. Direct Connect, of course, Glue for cataloging, EBS snapshots. So you name it, all the relevant AWS services, we're tightly integrated with those in the AWS environment. So you can make the most of these things that you're probably using with other applications in AWS. One cool thing that I'd like to talk about briefly is consumption pricing. This is usage-based pricing. And so think of it this way. In the past, for decades, Teradata has offered capacity-based pricing. So customers buy a certain amount of compute and storage, and whether they used it or not, that's what they paid for. Well, consumption-based pricing is sort of the opposite. It's we provide an environment for the customers, and customers only pay for what they use. So it's our job as the service provider to provision the appropriate amount of resources for you, and then you can query as much or as little as you like, and you only pay for what you use. So very cool. It totally lowers the barrier to entry. It used to be, it was expensive, frankly, to get started with Teradata, like a decade ago. And now you can literally get started with zero money down, zero financial obligation, walk away whenever you want, and only pay for what you use. So it's a total sea change in how we do pricing. So you've got choice. And that's, like I said earlier, that's one of the key benefits of Teradata in the cloud. How are we different than others? Well, it's the same software that customers use on premises, so it's field hardened, top rated by industry analysts. We're famous for what we call dynamic resource allocation, or workload management is another way to think of this. This is where you can dial in and specify prioritization for different groups of users. So some have higher priority over others, or if there's spare resources available, it consumes all those. So you can have guaranteed query response times, predictable response times. It's not best effort or first in, first out. You can set the prioritization there. We also are well known for software optimization. So when we talk about scaling performance in the cloud, we're not simply talking about adding hardware, which frankly is a brute force method of scaling power, right? When you add compute instances or increase the size, you're paying for that additional compute power, so it's not free. But with software optimization, which Teradata leads with, we really focus on indexing, for example, to vastly increase query performance with zero additional cost. It's already part of your software. It's already part of your subscription price. So these are just a couple of the things that are part of Teradata Vantage on AWS, and some of the key differentiators from other alternatives in the market. Who uses Teradata? Well, we really cater to the who's who, the industry leaders across a variety of vertical markets. So you can see on the slide here, 18 of the top 20 global banks, 19 of the top 20 communications providers, all of the top 6 airlines, and on and on and on. So we're famous for catering to the household brand name companies, companies and logos that you know and recognize and think highly of. But now that we're in the cloud, this really opens the door, particularly with this consumption pricing, for non-Teradata users or new business units within existing Teradata customers to try Teradata for themselves. See it low risk. Again, if you're only paying for what you use, it's up to you to decide whether you want to use it a lot or not and only pay for what you use. One great use case for existing customers is disaster recovery. So by this, I mean existing customer has Teradata on premises in your own data center, and let's say you want to try out Teradata in the cloud. Well, disaster recovery is a perfect use case for this, because instead of backing up your data in analytic environment on-prem or in another data center, you can back up into the cloud, back it up into Amazon S3. If there's some catastrophic event on premises, or even if you just want to do maintenance and bring down your system, we'll spin up the environment in the cloud, load your data from S3, and you're off and running with a Vantage environment in the cloud. It's a great way to get started on AWS. And in fact, some customers use this as a way to sort of back into the cloud very seamlessly, non-disruptive way to go from on-prem into the cloud. You do it on your own time frame. There's no rush or disruption to have to do that. Just wrapping up, real quickly on Teradata, I've mentioned a few times we are very different than what we were in the past. We're still focused on data and analytics. That's what we've always done, but now we're very much focused on software and very much focused on software in the cloud. And in fact, by the end of this year, nearly 100% of our customer engagements will be subscription-based. Everything used to be perpetual licensing. Now we're nearly 100% subscription, so very different. We have scale, nearly $2 billion company, over 9,000 employees. We've been around for decades. We know what we're doing. We're really good at it, and our pedigree kind of precedes us, and we've parlayed this into the cloud, so you get all those benefits, all that heritage with it. We love AWS. We've been working with AWS for over 4 years now. We have over 160 certifications of employees, over 5,000 accreditations. So think about it. That's like over half of our employee base accredited on AWS. A bunch of well-architected reviews. We're all in on the cloud, and we're all in with AWS. Last slide. What should you do if you're interested in using Vantage on AWS or learning more? We always recommend you start with education. There's so much FUD, there's so much misinformation about analytics in the cloud, or just the cloud in general. So for example, everyone assumes that you're automatically going to save money in the cloud. That may or may not be the case. It depends on your workload. So we'd like to work with each customer and find out specifically what are your priorities, your timelines, your strategy, your objectives, which other partners are you working with, because we realize we're part of that ecosystem. It's not just all about us. We want to be play nicely with all the other companies that you're working with. So we always recommend start with education, talk to other customers of Teradata in the cloud, talk to the key industry analysts, find out what they have to say, and start from a base of knowledge rather than the fear, uncertainty, and doubt that is often out there with so many other things on the internet. So that kind of wraps up my prepared remarks. What I'd like to do now is invite you to submit some questions in the chat portion of LinkedIn, and we'll answer your questions. So again, thanks for tuning in, and let's answer your questions right now. Great. Well, so we got a lot of questions so far. Thanks so much. I'll just kind of take them in order. How do I subscribe to Vantage on AWS? Well, the first thing you should do is connect with your Teradata account team if you're a current Teradata customer. If not, then you can go to the website and connect there. You can also go to AWS Marketplace. And so basically what the Teradata account team will do, if you're an existing customer, will help you, the whole process of sizing and migrating to AWS the appropriate size. With a new customer, what you can do is, we'll help figure out what your objectives are and priorities. And then typically what we do in the cloud deployment is start small because it's easy to scale, right? There's no need to overbuy, over provision up front. So we'll start conservatively small and then take it from there. There's lots of tools that the team has to figure out the appropriate sizing. A lot of the actual transaction itself, the subscription transaction, many times we do that through private offers on AWS Marketplace. This is where we tailor the business arrangements specifically for each customer, and it's private just for you, and that's a way to go. In fact, we work very closely with AWS, and there's a special incentive in Q3, so a little bit of financial incentive there to make it easier to move things along. For those who don't want to engage with the Teradata account team, that's fine as well. You can go straight to AWS Marketplace. All the list pricing is there, and you can click and subscribe. Next question is, how long has Teradata been working with AWS? 5 years, frankly. In June 2016 or 15 rather, is when we became an APM partner. We're both an advanced technology partner and an advanced consulting partner with AWS, and that's somewhat unique among the many thousands of companies that work with AWS. So 5 years as a partner. 4 years ago is when we started on AWS Marketplace. That's when we started with our software there, the full range of Teradata software. And then 3 years ago, in 2017, is when we started with our as-a-service offers. So a long working history. AWS is the first public cloud provider that we started with, and we continue to have many levels of interconnectedness with AWS. The executive level, product management, roadmaps, engineering, go-to-market alignment, sales compensation. So we're very serious about deploying Teradata software in the cloud. Another question: what's the difference between Oracle and Teradata? Great question. Big differences. For 40 years since Teradata's start, we've been focused on data and analytics. Frankly, that's all we do. I mean, software for the longest time, optimize hardware to go with the software. We have a huge consulting team focused specifically on data and analytics, whereas Oracle, many different types of software. They're most famous for transactional databases, whereas Teradata is focused on analytical databases. So it's really all about focus, and we're very good at what we do, as evidenced by top rankings in Gartner Magic Quadrants and Forrester Waves, and just sort of the caliber of companies that use Teradata really speaks to the advantage they get from leveraging Teradata software for analytics. For the longest time on premises, and now also in the cloud. Let's see. Another question: how do we Reconcile the on-premises and cloud databases. I think I understand the question here. So it's very common for customers, especially very large enterprises. Naturally, they have large investments in their on-premises data centers because until the cloud came around, that was the prime deployment method is you buy equipment, you install it in your data center, you operate it, and those are typically perpetual transactions, meaning you pay up front, maybe, and then use that infrastructure over a 3 to 5 or even longer year period. And so there's huge amounts of data gravity there, especially for these large enterprises that have been around because that's where it was stored. Now more and more data sources are cloud-based, and more deployments, and especially for younger companies, are cloud-based. And so there's this mix, and we call this hybrid cloud, on-premises and cloud deployment. And one of the really cool things about Teradata Vantage on AWS, it's the exact same software that our customers use on premises. So that means there is not a difference in feature capability in different versions. With alternatives in the market, oftentimes there's different versions of software in the different deployment options. So they might have an on-prem system with version X, and they have a cloud system with version Y, and those are different, right? So not all the same features. A lot of times customers have to recode or change some things to make them speak fluently together. With Teradata, that's not an issue because our strategy is to have the exact same software everywhere. So the same software, same capabilities, same features, and so it's easy and low risk to migrate workloads from on-premises into the AWS environment because it's the same code. There's literally no need to recode, to change user-defined functions, to retrain personnel or reprocess engineer. It's all the same. And in fact, we've got many large customers where literally in a matter of weeks or just a few months, we're able to migrate massive on-prem systems, literally 20, 25 years of Teradata systems on premises, help them migrate in just a matter of weeks or months into the cloud environment. And so that's the benefit of having the same software everywhere. So that's one of the advantages of working with Teradata is that because data and analytics are all that we do, we know this inside and out. We know how to architect things. We know data models. We know how to help you migrate in a staged, very methodical plan, how to do this in order to minimize risk, be non-disruptive, and match your timeline, right? Because some companies want to spread this out and go very conservatively. Others want to go very quickly. Hey, we can do it all. We work with you, but it's based on your timeline rather than some arbitrary or one-size-fits-all timeline. Let's see. Another question here. Do you use Teradata or S3 as database with Vantage? So good question. So in the AWS environment, we use EC2 or Elastic Cloud Compute instances as the compute. We use EBS or Elastic Block Store as the storage for the high performance data store. And then we use S3 or Amazon Simple Storage Service for backups as well as for data lakes. So until a few years ago, Hadoop was a very commonly used technology for data lakes, basically either low value or unknown value, unstructured data, drop it all into Hadoop data lake, and then after the fact go back and infrequently go back and query that data. And we can do that with Teradata software. You can use Query Grid to connect to Hadoop data lakes. More and more, though, now in the last couple of years, S3-based data lakes are becoming much more popular. So customers have essentially limitless capacity for S3 data lakes, and we connect to that through a technology we call native object store. And so what this means is the data that is higher value or queried much more frequently, let's say the last 12 months of corporate data, you can assume that that's going to be queried more frequently than data from last year or 5 years ago or 10 years ago. So you have your higher value, more frequently queried data in EBS storage, the higher performance storage, which comes at a higher cost, and you have your lower value or less frequently queried data, like everything else, in the data lake. And the cool thing about Teradata software is that you can query all of that data. It's not an either or, it's an and. So with native object store, literally there's a SQL statement that basically you tell Vantage, well, connect to this object store in S3 or multiple buckets. And then from thereafter, it's just a table. And so you as the business user or the data scientist or the citizen data scientist, you literally just query without really having to think about where is the data. So the benefit is there's no need to move data, which takes time and effort. And a lot of times with other systems, non-Teradata systems, companies, they end up only using a sample, a portion of data, because it is so cumbersome to move all the data to a different platform. With Teradata, leave the data where it is, play it where it lies, so to speak. But with Vantage, between native object store and query grid, you can connect to your S3 data lakes, Hadoop data lakes, your Oracle transaction systems, other repositories. Hey, no problem. Use all your data, and with Vantage, you integrate all that together and get the best analytics using all your data, regardless of where it is. Let's see here. We got a lot of questions. This is awesome. I'll try to do it. We've only got a couple more minutes. Let's see. Do we have any free account usage available for self-learning, exploring data on AWS? Great question. So the answer is yes. There is a free tier of software, Teradata Vantage Developer. It's free software. The compute charge to run that is less than $1 an hour. So that's one option. With our partners, we've got technology partners and SIs. We can certainly set up systems and make that available. We're under limited availability with a Vantage trial. So that's something that will be coming soon to select Teradata users or prospects where they can play with Teradata. And then even so, those are like some of the free options. But then even the base tier itself, very economical way to use Teradata to try it out. The developer tier is free, but if you want to have a little bit more concurrency, more number of simultaneous users, you can go with base, and then you can step up there from advanced to enterprise. So like everything in the cloud, we recommend start small. There's no need to overbuy. Start with a lower tier, and then if you need more, you just increase. You scale up or you go to a different tier, no problem. Let's see, features of Teradata database. I recommend you go to their website. There's, well, by the way, Teradata Vantage is the new name for Teradata database. For the longest time, we called it Teradata database. Vantage is the next evolution. We combined the Teradata database advanced SQL engine, the thing that we've most known for, and then the intellectual property from our Aster Analytics acquisition, machine learning and graph analytics. We've integrated those into one platform, so it's very convenient for customers. You don't need two different databases or move data around. It's all right there. Let's see. Analytical data models. So because it's the same software, we have the same data models that are available. So we have part of our consulting org, and what we do is we have industry-specific data models. So whether it's finance or transportation or supply chain or you name it, data models optimized for that vertical market. And so those all can be applied and used in the cloud. And then with our consulting services team, we can tailor anything, frankly, to your needs. And then our systems integrator partners, they too can, provide these value-added services. So lots of choice. You're definitely not on your own when it comes to deploying Vantage on AWS. I'm cognizant of the time, just 2 more minutes. Let's see here. You tell us why Teradata has the lowest cost per query. So great question. I don't want to go into specific pricing stuff here. First of all, the pricing is published on our website page. All the list pricing is there, and again on AWS Marketplace you can see that. We always encourage you to engage with your Teradata account team, and we can help package something specifically for you. But frankly, for large enterprises that have massive quantities of queries, massive concurrency. When I say massive, what does that mean? I mean literally millions of queries a day, billions of queries a month in some cases. We have a few customers literally trillions of queries a year. That's a lot of queries. And so our software is designed to handle that volume of concurrency. Most other databases, they simply fall over and choke with that volume. It's just too much. It overwhelms them. But this is what Teradata is known for, performance at scale. And so because of that, we do have the lowest cost at enterprise scale. And your account team or have follow-up would be happy to talk to you about that. I see that we're running out of time. We appreciate you tuning in. I'm sorry I didn't have time to answer all your questions. What I recommend, check out our success stories on teradata.com/AWS. Make sure to follow Teradata on LinkedIn. There will be more of these live sessions. We're excited to this new channel to communicate with the market, and reach out to your account team, ask them about Vantage Trial, go on the website, look at what we have, read about other customer successes, and we appreciate your interest. We're very excited to be engaged with AWS, and have a great day. Be safe, wash your hands, and we'll see you out there in the market. Thank you.